As we mentioned earlier, even some high-ranking Nazis were eager to participate in certain chilling activities. Hitler's system of eliminating inferior people was able to exist because some individuals genuinely enjoyed this work. Service in concentration camps and the preparation of occupied territories for war provided these so-called defenders with plenty of opportunities. Lower-ranking Nazis might indulge in various morbid pleasures, while high-ranking officers had even more options. Reports indicate that German officers in Poland, Belarus, and other places engaged in deadly games, similar to those depicted in action movies. They would select healthy young men from a group of prisoners to increase the thrill of their games. Additionally, working in concentration camps or execution squads allowed them to entertain themselves without leaving their posts. For example, Karl Otto Koch, the official executioner of the Buchenwald concentration camp, was so passionate about his job that he tortured prisoners purely for his own pleasure. It is said that his wife Ilse Koch kept a fresh corpse under her bed as a sleeping aid, believing it helped her sleep better. Women under the Nazi regime, although they did not hold formal military ranks, often occupied high-ranking positions such as senior prison guards or concentration camp commanders. This allowed them opportunities for their own sadistic amusement. Irma Grese, a notorious figure, was responsible for overseeing prisoner labor and enforcing strict discipline. She reportedly organized brutal games, such as using food to lure starving dogs before setting them loose on prisoners. One of Greece's favorite pastimes was playing Russian roulette. She would line up prisoners, hold a revolver, pull the trigger, and then choose a target she found most interesting. Greece also spent her free time with her colleague, the infamous Angel of Death, Dr. Joseph Mengele. Although she had no medical background, she took pleasure in observing particularly cruel surgical procedures. Josef Kramer, the commander of the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp, was another officer who found entertainment in extreme cruelty. Despite his position not requiring direct involvement in executions, he reportedly enjoyed observing gas chambers in operation through small windows. Another sadistic game was invented by Otto Moll, a subordinate of Kramer. He would force pregnant female prisoners to march around burning pits of corpses and then shoot at them, making a sport of guessing whether they would collapse from exhaustion or fall into the flames. Ilse Koch, wife of Karl Otto Koch, had her own brutal games. She would arrange prisoners at intervals in a field and then ride on horseback, shooting them at random for fun, while other guards turned a blind eye. Intimate relationships held special significance in Nazi officers' private lives. They were encouraged to ensure their desires were met, as long as they adhered to racial purity rules. For high-ranking officers, having mistresses was not only accepted, but expected. This did not affect their image as good family men, and their wives rarely objected. This practice had population planning motives. Nazis believed that due to war-related male casualties, allowing the most successful survivors to have multiple partners was a logical way to ensure enough offspring. Even high-ranking officials engaged in regular extramarital affairs, sometimes with their wives' encouragement. Additionally, military officers were given vouchers to visit brothels operated by Nazi women's organizations. Prostitutes were considered state employees, receiving salaries and certain benefits. However, their working conditions were grim. Some had to serve dozens of clients per day. Nazi officers, particularly SS members, were prohibited from engaging with inferior races, but some circumvented this by abducting women they desired and then disposing of them. This kind of so-called entertainment was common in concentration camps, where commanders used prisoners to satisfy their desires. Female leaders were no exception. Ilse Koch reportedly selected attractive male prisoners for personal service. Serving in concentration camps not only enabled these individuals to fulfill their depraved desires, but also made such actions an unofficially accepted norm under Nazi rule. Leaders such as Irma Grese and Bergen-Belsen, Commander Hermann Pilger, exploited female prisoners for similar reasons. Even Karl Otto Koch himself chose young male prisoners for personal gratification, making him indifferent to his wife's harmless amusements. While Nazis engaged in seemingly innocent leisure activities, even their most harmless pastimes often took violent and cruel turns. Many high-ranking officers considered themselves cultured individuals who appreciated music. For instance, senior concentration camp guard Maria Mandel suggested forming a prisoner orchestra. When new inmates arrived, they were greeted with cheerful music, making Nazi officers feel as if they had a refined sense of culture. Mandel often visited the prisoners' barracks to request performances. The Kochs were also music lovers, and at Buchenwald, they organized a performance known as the Singing Horses. Prisoners were forced to pull heavy stones or bodies while singing upbeat songs to amuse their sadistic audience. Sports activities in concentration camps also took on twisted forms. For example, the ancient Olympic event of chariot racing was revived, except instead of horses, prisoners were harnessed to pull the chariots. Photography was another common hobby among Nazi officers, who enjoyed sending pictures to their families. The backgrounds varied, sometimes featuring cottages, churches, or landscapes, but often including execution sites, gallows, or burning buildings. One infamous photo shows an officer from the 197th Division posing with Zoya Kosmodemyanskaya shortly before her execution. According to the Nuremberg trials, Nazis also engaged in a bizarre form of collecting called sensory collections, where human remains were specially processed into fist-sized keepsakes. These were often made from the heads of prisoners who had, for some reason, been particularly favored. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next episode.